What's up, guys? My name is Shishir Nigam, and welcome again to our channel Journey to Freedom, where you can follow along on our journey to financial freedom through the worlds of Shopify and dropshipping. So make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so that you get to know every single time we put out a brand new video like this one today. You guys are in for a treat today. We'll be speaking and interviewing a gentleman named Ricky Hayes. Ricky Hayes is an 8-figure entrepreneur in the world of dropshipping. He owns multiple brands, and he's also the co-founder of the Beautify theme. And we were able to speak to him, and we asked him lots of interesting questions throughout the interview. Today we're releasing part 1 of that interview, so make sure you stay till the end of this one to catch all the important nuggets that he shared with us. There's tons of value in the content. We got a lot of good ideas and insights from his own processes and systems that he has put in place for his multiple brands and stores. So a lot to learn for all of us, including myself. So make sure, as I mentioned, stay till the end of the video to catch everything, and do tune in for part 2 of the interview that will be released on Thursday this week. So stay tuned and let's get right into the interview. Hi everyone, my name is Shishir Nigam, and welcome again to our channel Journey to Freedom, where you can follow along on our journey to financial freedom through the worlds of Shopify and dropshipping. Today we have the pleasure of interviewing and speaking with Ricky Hayes. Ricky is an 8-figure entrepreneur. He is running multiple stores and brands. He also has his own digital marketing agency, and he's a co-founder of the Beautify Shopify theme. And most recently, he's the founding council member on the Dropshipping Council. So we have a lot of interesting questions planned for Ricky today. So make sure you stay till the end of the interview to catch all the nuggets. Again, thanks so much for taking up the time, Ricky.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here.
Perfect. So I think to get us started, why don't we just talk about how you got started in the e-commerce business, dropshipping in general. Let's start. I think that would be a good starting point.
So I got started in this. It's now technically, since I started my entrepreneur journey, was about 3 years ago. So it's a bit of a funny story, actually. I was in my I was in a full-time employment in a large institution here in Australia, and my department had a work get together out of hours, and I thought, I'm not a very sociable person, but I thought, I'll go to a bit of fun. And I was speaking to one of my colleagues privately just there, and we got talking about the topic of him making money online, and my background comes from an IT background, so we're very much on the same pace there. And it just fascinated me with what he sort of told me, and I always knew people made money online, but I never thought that I would have that opportunity to take up that opportunity myself. And so that just sort of spiked a fire inside of me, and for many months, basically, I just did a lot of research, failing, and so on, and to this day, just continue just to learn, educate, and grow from there. So it's been a very difficult journey, but very rewarding all the same.
That's great. So you're very thankful you stepped out that night.
That was. I still remember it quite vividly, and I just caught up with him a few days ago. We catch up regularly, and to me, I'm still eternally grateful that he even spoke to me about that, because it just captivated me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I think it's always very interesting to hear how people land, where they are today. Everybody has a fascinating journey of their own roots and paths. So it's always good to start there. So where and how did Beautify come into the story? At what point did you consider launching that? And that's been going fantastic, I know. So tell us a bit about that.
So a bit of a funny story, that one as well. But so I've been into e-commerce now for about 2 years, and had multiple e-commerce stores and et cetera, et cetera. And I'd always, even before I got into this, as I said, I come from an IT background, so I've always loved software. If anyone sees my channel, I always see a reference, I love software. I just do. Anyway, and so I'd always been searching for a software as a service solution. And when Beautify came along, it was actually my business partner now who approached me as an influencer to actually promote Beautify. I had a look at it, and it just really captivated me, because I'd always wanted to be in a software solution, I knew I had the skills to promote a tool that, and I knew how it would work, and I knew how to market it because I know the industry very well. So to me, it just gelled very well. And truthfully, I approached him about it, and it took a little bit of convincing to do, but because he's more a developer, and that was his problem was exposure, whereas I'm more a marketer, and so that's sort of where that synergy came in play. And I wanted to provide a solution, being someone myself that started, like everyone else, to give people a kickstart to help them build their business. Because I remember the first number of months I built my first e-commerce business. It took me 3 months because I was just spending so much time trying to make the perfect store, and it was a waste of time. And so I wanted to make something where people can just basically have a template. There you go, focus on your ads.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I believe recently you've crossed 100,000 people who are using the.
Yeah, last I checked, just about 100,000 people. Yeah, so I've been with Beautify now for about 9 months. So from when started, it had about 3,000 downloads now. Yeah, just around. Yeah, so it's grown quite rapidly. So it's been a very tough but rewarding journey all the same.
That's amazing. So I guess if you look back, when you started off initially in your own stores, what were some of your biggest learnings and failures that you went through in the beginning?
So definitely don't spend forever making a store.
Yes.
So as I said, I love software, and it took me 3 months to build my store to then find out when I ran my first ad, my store meant nothing. Because if your ads aren't working and getting traffic to your website means nothing. You can have the best landing page in the world, but if no one sees it, it means nothing. So that was personally, I still see that as my biggest failure. I think that people, don't get me wrong, having a great website, funnel, whatever is important. But to me, the linchpin of success in any business is marketing. Marketing is always, you've got to get your name out there first, and then everything else comes after it. So that was by far, in my opinion, my biggest failure, is I looked at that entirely wrong. And also the other part was my selection of products. My first store was a stationery store, and I don't know, I just thought, people love pencils. People love
yes,
and they do, but they're not going to just buy from just some random store a little pencil and stuff. So the other thing was obviously understanding very much what a great product is and how to market that was my other biggest one, if I'll be honest.
Yeah, that's great. I think those are two very important points. And you're right. I think initially when people get into the e-commerce business, they are very caught up in design and just because it's what they have control over initially.
Correct.
So that's what you spend the most time on, because everything else is brand new and you don't have control over that.
Yeah.
So you just, completely fascinated by
Marketing is very daunting because in terms of it's a constant, I guess, grind. You can look at it. It's never got that pure end line. It's always you're changing. Whereas with your website, it's sort of leave it and then it's set and forget. So yeah, very different mentality there.
Exactly. So you alluded to this just now in terms of product selection. Through the years, as you've learned, what kind of things do you look for the most in terms of selecting products now, and what eventually makes it into something you'd call a winner? What are the commonalities that you find?
So I use a number of criteria personally. So I gather you don't mind me going through them?
Of course, yeah, go ahead.
So first things first is, personally for me, I market mainly to women. So one of the things I've learned in the e-commerce space is it's probably 80-90% of the buyers are women. In specific niches, obviously there is plenty of men buy, but generally in the drop shipping community as a whole, the big ones generally target women. And that's where I will always recommend to everyone to target the big 5 niches, being cosmetics, pets, fashion, jewelry, and the baby niche, pardon me. And those are all very female dominated niches, and they have products that are evergreen. So in relation to the product itself, sorry, I won't get too much off topic, is does the product have mass appeal? And so the definition to me of mass appeal is, you know, um, is it a product that you can see that only a select few people would use in a very specific circumstance, or could you see it being used in every household? Let's say it's a kitchen item. Everyone has a kitchen. This item will be applicable to every household. Therefore, it's got sort of a mass appeal. Secondly, it's generally much easier to sell an item that solves a problem than it is to just sell someone another T-shirt they have in their wardrobe.
Correct.
So if it helps solve a problem in their life, they're far more likely. So the main areas being, does it save them time? Does it make them more safe? Does it allow them to be more efficient in something what they're doing? Generally, something that will help help them do what they're doing, but do it better.
Yes.
People are willing to pull out their wallets a lot more openly for that.
Right.
And sort of on top of that as well, I always look at, to me, having good margins. Unfortunately now with the drop shipping and e-commerce as a whole being a very popular business model, you get a lot of competition. And so it's really important that you look at how you can sell a product at a good margin. So let's say another niche I forgot to mention, was jewelry as well. But so a piece of jewelry, you could buy for $2-3 from a supplier.
Yeah.
And because it's got a high perceived value, you could sell it for $40-50. So it really becomes a product where you can make a lot of mistakes, but still at the end of the day, make some profit from your business. Yeah. And so those are the sort of key elements.
To play with. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, correct. Because marketing, as I said, is something that is always evolving, getting tougher. There's many new opportunities, but you can't, in my opinion, I look at least a $15 margin that I can sell it on before I even consider trying to sell that product, because at the end of the day, it just becomes too expensive otherwise, and you can't make it profitable for your business.
Fantastic. So if I summarize that correctly, mass appeal, some sort of a problem-solving nature, and a high enough margin, essentially.
Primarily, yeah, and not being sexist, of course, but it targets women predominantly.
Yes,
I just generally find that it's much easier to market to women.
I agree with you. I found that personally in my own stores as well. I've tested both sort of male-oriented, female-oriented products, and I agree with you. And it tends to be more, in my opinion, it's more because a lot of the products that we tend to sell and market are meant to be impulse products. And as a result, that's usually where people.
It's an interesting thing. Like when you think about it, to me, that the entrepreneur community as a whole is a male-dominated niche. Yes. So, men tend to buy, from what I see, buy less, but they buy larger order amounts, whereas women buy more but smaller order amounts. So it's just a very different sort of culture, sort of mindset, I guess.
Yeah, and similarly, good segue again. How would you initially focus on selling higher ticket items or lower ticket items? Let's define that as more than $50 or less than $50.
Personally, I've found that that higher ticket, I sort of prefer higher ticket. I know that people say that with higher ticket, you're meant to do more work to get that sale, and retrospectively, they're not wrong. But I also find that at the end of the day, if the product is really just a good product and you've marketed very well, and people feel that price is right, it won't really be much of a problem. I've had stores where I have a very cheap product and the conversion rates barely sells, and then some that very high and it sells very well. It's just, to me, it more comes down to the product more than the price, in my opinion.
Right, the product quality. That's a fair point. In my experience, what I had seen in our stores was definitely my goal was always that I want to increase my average order value, but I found it to be a bit more effective if I start with a lower ticket item up front, which allows it to still be an impulse buy.
And then upsell them.
Exactly. And then upsell them complementary products that eventually brings doubles or triples their AOV, because your buyer is much more likely to buy again if they've just bought from you. So rather than, if your goal is to have a $70 AOV, I personally found that I was more successful if my first item hook offer is, let's say, a $30 product, but then I build that up to a $70 eventual
Yeah.
AOV, and I'm having
Yep.
more success with that compared to having a $70 product up front, because that's a much bigger hurdle to cross.
Yeah, it's about getting them across the line. So yeah, it's a very valid point. And one of the things that I generally do as well is I very much focus on email marketing.
Yes.
So for me, a lead is liquid gold. So like that also helps with that as well. So I guess a question for you is, what type of funnel do you use? Do you just use Shopify and that yourself and do upsells in the back end there?
Yes. Well, so I have upsells that happen within Shopify itself using
Mm,
Zipify. And then, of course, I still do the email marketing upsells later on. I'm doing text marketing behind the scenes. So all of that
yep,
naturally contributes to the overall value.
yep.
Yeah, that's great. So now, next topic I had in mind was shipping and logistics. So in the current environment, that's one of the main challenges that many of us are facing. So how are you personally dealing with those challenges on your stores? Are you still shipping from China and sourcing agents, or are you employing some of the tactic?
Yes, there's a lot of solutions out there, and in my opinion, a lot of them just they're overhyped.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
Hmm.
um, I do it a bit of an unconventional way. So I said I've always preferred that. To me, when I build an e-commerce store, is if I'm a customer,
Yeah.
um, I wouldn't want to wait 4 to 6 weeks for an
Yeah.
item, and I'm sure that that's a big topic in the community right now. Anyway,
Hmm. Hmm.
anyway, but so what I usually like to do is if I'm doing the drop shipping type of model, I do two things, or technically three. So
Yeah.
I actually just use local suppliers. Usually, most products you'll find on AliExpress, there'll be some local supply. Now, to me, the definition of a local supplier comes in one of three things:
Yeah.
an Amazon seller, an
Hmm.
eBay seller, or just an actual store, Shopify or business that is selling the product. And it's just so I'll jump on Amazon, try and find it. I'll try and go on
Hmm.
eBay and find it, or
Yeah.
I'll just do a Google search, and I usually try and come up with a deal with
Hmm.
that web business owner, pardon me.
Right.
And basically I order it through them, and they will then ship it to the customer.
Hmm.
Um, so that way it is more expensive. So obviously,
Yeah.
the product is more expensive, and the shipping can be more expensive. But at the end of
Hmm.
the day, because I generally promote a 2 to 5 day shipping time frame, so I need to try and honor that.
Yeah. That's right.
And so I do that. And the good thing is, you can do that from anywhere in the around the world.
Hmm.
Um, but my long-term goal is obviously, as a business owner, that we want to try and reduce our costs. So at the same time, once I have a product that is doing very well,
Yes.
let's say doing $1,000 a day plus,
Hmm.
I will, as you sort of mentioned yourself, I get a sourcing agent, or I go, personally, I just use a lot of Alibaba and go direct to warehouse.
Yeah.
And I'll do big bulk orders, and then get it brought into that retrospective country. I personally mainly market to just Australia and United States, and get it into a warehouse.
Hmm.
And then obviously, then the logistics is pretty much handled from there.
Right.
So
And
that's sort of how I handle it.
you're doing that through services like ShipBob or some other honest fulfillment companies like that?
I use FBA.
Oh, okay. FBA, yeah, that's
So,
great.
so not many people actually know this, but you can. For me, I know a lot of people use ShipBob, and I have used ShipBob, and it's
Yeah.
great.
Hmm.
But what I've always liked is I want to have one fulfillment center provider across the world,
Mm.
and Amazon's that provider. And
Right.
not a lot of people know it, but you can actually just use Amazon purely for your fulfillment through
Hmm.
Shopify.
Right.
So I get the order through Shopify, build my own brand, but then I have the global logistic power of
Off
the
Amazon.
biggest fulfillment center in the world. So
Hmm.
I just send it to them. I
Yeah.
have an Amazon seller account. My
Hmm.
team handles it all.
Yeah.
Away I go. So they do the boxing, the labeling,
Hmm.
the tracking, everything, and I find it works really well. Like, because ShipBob's great, but
Yeah.
obviously, for instance, in the United States, but if I want to go international, I'm going to have to find another 3PL.
Yes. Right.
Whereas if I use Amazon, I use the same fulfillment provider, just in a
Hmm.
different region.
Right.
So I
Right.
just like that approach personally.
That's a great tip. Yeah, I agree. And I guess to one nuance there is, so when you're in the testing phase for products, when you are just testing your products to see what gains traction, you're still using the model you mentioned initially, where you're looking for
Correct. Yeah.
Amazon.com, eBay.
Because I'm not going to personally go and buy $5, $10,
Exactly.
$20,000 worth of stock
Correct.
and then potentially just risk losing that money.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather lose a couple $100 spending it on higher product price and shipping just to test it out. That's just how I approach it.
That's great. Great tips there. Hope you're finding value in the content so far, guys. And if you are, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so that you get to know every single time that we put out a brand new video. And make sure you stay till the end of this one to catch all the content, and comment below on what you like and what you'd like to hear about. Stay with us. Now transitioning to Facebook ads and the marketing side of the story, how in terms of testing products again, what kind of strategies do you utilize when you're, let's say, launching a brand new product that you want to test in the beginning?
Yeah, so for me with Facebook, obviously it's dependent on the product and niche, but generally Facebook, video is king, and generally as we know it. So, you know, the thing that a lot of products we've all seen are winners, but the definition of a winner is a very subjective term. So I'll very much focus on trying to make high quality creatives. My approach, I see a lot of people have different approaches to this, and they're all very valid in their own ways. My personal approach is I prefer to test fewer products with a higher success rate. I see, you know, there's that discussion about testing a lot of products and then finding that winner. To me, that's more a needle in a haystack. I prefer to do more upfront research of the product, the industry, learn about it, and then make great creatives and then market it. So, and that's sort of how I reflect that in Facebook. I very much focus on, as I said, the creative itself, and I'll test a lot of creatives to see what offer, you know, ideally starts to convert, and then I use that to use that as a template to say, all right, I'll make similar ones and keep sort of working from there. Because we're very lucky, in my opinion. Facebook is very simple when you get down to it. The targeting, you happy for me to talk about that? Sorry, the targeting stuff?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, but like the targeting, you know, like I very much, I just do broad interests, especially in the beginning. So if I'm targeting people that love dogs, I'll just target various dog breeds, dog magazines, dog TV shows, famous dog. Because Facebook is very intelligent. I always go straight for the kill personally purchase. Nearly everyone does that nowadays anyway. And then I just very much focus on trying to make a creative that's really just going to convert. And that's sort of how I've always approached it. And some products...
Do you personally make your own creatives, or do you employ agencies to do that for you?
I employ agencies at a higher level. Generally, so for anyone watching, I recommend always trying to learn the skills yourself in the beginning. Because even if you don't do it well, you know,
you learn
just
through it.
And then when you go to outsource it to someone, you'll outsource it much better because you'll know what to look for. So I have an internal video editor that does mine for me, especially in the beginning. And then, for instance, with agencies and stuff, I use ones that cost quite a lot of money, where they make proper custom-made ones. But in the beginning, to most people, I recommend just trying to do it yourself, and also just trying to hire a video editor who can help you with it as well.
So I think from what I'm hearing of its strategy, you're testing obviously more quality products, spending a lot more time in developing the offer, the angles, the landing page, all of those things. So if I ask for a number, roughly on your stores, if you're in a testing phase, how many products would you test in a month, let's say?
2.
That's what I was expecting, yes.
Yeah, so I test, I'm not sure about you, but I personally hate testing a lot of products. I'm very much a one focus mind. So I like to find a product that's converting that I can really just focus in on, rather than, you know, testing a ton of products. So that's just sort of my personal forte. As a result, then, you know, I spend a lot more on that product to
Correct.
try and get enough data to see if, hey, if I can actually scale this, if it is a winner, so on and so forth. And I know full well, okay, I've spent $500 to $1,000.
Yes.
Is this worth pursuing further?
Yes.
And then I make my decisions based on the data.
Correct. So where people may have, if they're doing the quantity approach, they may have $100 or $200 budget for each product that they test, because you're investing a lot more time and effort, naturally you're able to spend a bit more. And presumably you have bigger margins too, because you're pricing a higher quality product.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the other thing that I generally find is, again, all these strategies are very valid in their own regards.
Yeah.
But I find one of the biggest problems I see is that people try and target so many countries all at once. And that's fine and all, but we also have to acknowledge if you're going to do that, you're going to have to spend more to get proper data.
Yes.
So that's why I mainly target just a couple of countries so I can really hone in on them and see how I go with those firstly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, so again, in that testing phase, when you're launching a campaign to test your product, are you using CBOs at that point, or are you still using ad set budgets in the beginning?
I personally have just transitioned fully to CBO. ABO is still quite good, admittedly, for very early stages, but nearly every time I see it at a high level, you nearly always transition to a CBO. Correct. And I just prefer personally just to skip that approach and just go straight to CBO. The algorithm and approach has improved quite significantly. Tit for tat, in my opinion. So I just go straight for CBO. It works fine for me. And I just personally, how I do it is I go 5 ad sets in a single CBO. I just start at $25 a day and let it do its magic, ideally, and give it at least 48 hours to try and see, what is potentially working, what isn't. And then I start to pause the things that aren't working and leaving the things that are, so I guess trimming the fat, realistically.
That's $25 at the campaign level or the ad set?
Correct. Campaign level, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And now, have you also, I'm guessing you have, but have you had also success with other platforms outside of Facebook ads? So Pinterest ads, Google ads, TikTok, YouTube, all those different, have you had success diversifying away from Facebook as well?
Yeah, people that watch me know that I'm not a fan of Facebook ads in terms of, it's just like, to me, like having a baby, tantrums. Anyway, and
that's a good way to put it.
But I'm always for that in business. You can't rely on any one given thing, and then it makes sense. We're entrepreneurs. So I very much focus on omni-channel marketing. So I do Facebook, Google, Bing, YouTube, Pinterest. I've personally never done TikTok ads. I haven't even actually investigated how that works, truthfully. So I can't comment there. And then, I do, like what you said earlier, email marketing, SMS. Right. I also do Messenger and push as well. So and to me, I also do a lot of SEO marketing. It's a very long-term strategy, but SEO marketing is also a very strong marketing approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's one area that most beginners, at least, wouldn't focus on. But definitely, if you have a long-term goal of developing that brand name, then that's key, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Now, in terms of transitioning to overall profitability, so when you're running a store, let's say you found a product that is working, that has some traction, what kind of steps do you take then to start increasing the conversion rate for that one product that you're trying to market?
There's a number of ways, obviously. The first thing I generally look at is just obviously my store analytics to try and see where the drop-off point is realistically. Is there a drop-off point, or is it sort of looking, I guess, as normal as it can based on your circumstances? So, for instance, if I'm getting a lot of people adding to cart, but they're not going to the checkout, well, then that just essentially says something in between here, to me, is causing some friction. If they're getting to checkout and not buying, is it that I need to do a lot more remarketing, or is my shipping price too high, or is there something unexpected at checkout happening that's preventing people from buying? So I just use simply the Shopify conversion dashboard to give me an indication of where I should focus my energy. Um, and what I immediately, once I start getting an offer working well, is I very much focus on trying to get my remarketing well, because if I can get my remarketing in a position where I know it's going to work well, then I know from my cold traffic, I can just scale that. My remarketing will just always support me quite comfortably.
Right. That's a great tip. Now, we've already discussed this a little bit, but so in terms of increasing average order value, you've obviously talked about email marketing, but do you also do any upsells and cross sells on the store itself?
Yeah, so and that's like, for instance, one of the things in Beautify that I very much want to push is like that. When you add an item to cart, you can do instant upsell to try and say, you try and find an item that accommodates it. If it's a dog collar, maybe you want to sell them also a dog coat or something. And give an exclusive discount and get them to add that to their cart. And if it accommodates it, then, you can increase your average order value 10, 20, 30%, whatever that may be. And like what you said yourself, post-purchase upsells, instantly try and give them a nice, big, juicy discount to get them to buy again. And as long as it accommodates what you're initially selling, you'll get a good, generally I aim for about 20 to 30% of people take up that offer maximum.
Correct.
From my experience.
And where do you stand on sort of shipping policies in general? Do you prefer to charge customers some sort of shipping, or do you provide free shipping? What's the approach that you take?
I never offer free shipping. I'm very much against it. And that was a lesson I learned early on as well. I did start with the free shipping because it makes sense that it's meant to make it a little less frictionless. But with everything that's going on, especially in 2020, and the cost of it is for shipping nowadays, you have to account for that. So you're either going to have to put it in the product price, which is probably going to then turn people off even adding to cart and that, or you have it at checkout. And the reality is people expect to pay shipping nowadays. It's just become a standard. So to me, I've found that you get like a 1 in 100 people that say, "Oh, I don't want to pay shipping," and but generally, I always just offer shipping, because the other benefit long term, once you start building your business and that as well, is if you can do a simple email campaign and say free shipping store wide, and so
it becomes another carrot you can offer.
Correct, yeah. And people who doesn't love free shipping? So if they see that and they love your business, they'll just pull out their wallets again.
Yeah, exactly. And I've personally found that likewise, I offer free shipping above a certain minimum average order. And I actually think that it becomes a way to increase your average order value, because it's amazing what people do to get free shipping. So people will, order multiples just so they can get free shipping. So I tend to have my cutoff where I offer free shipping at a certain point that allows people to get free shipping if they order 2 or more. And many people do that just to get the free shipping, even though they're spending more.
I know. It's a funny thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. People are very much, I think in the beginning, I personally tended to overthink everything from Amazon's perspective. Oh yeah, all these people buying on Amazon, why would they ever pay for shipping? But it's not the case. Like you said, many people, especially I think outside of the US, are very used to paying shipping. I think within the US less so, but still, if people find value in the product, they would happily pay for shipping as long as it's not like 50% of the cost or something.
I think that my opinion is that I find a lot of people are very focused on Amazon a bit too much in terms of Amazon's like eBay, and that it's a marketplace where people go for a bargain, but there's always going to be people that are willing to generally pay more for quality. And that's as long as you present that quality to them, most people are more than happy to spend a bit extra for that.
Exactly.